Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome back to my channel, My So-Called Healthy Life. Oh my God, I cannot, you guys, seriously, the last 24 hours have been absolutely crazy, okay? Within the last 24 hours, my channel has almost reached 2,000 subscribers, which on one day is I love it. It's you guys are so wonderful to me. The comments that I received, which I read all of them, the support that I received from people on Twitter and on Facebook and everywhere saying that they're gonna join the journey with me and that they're gonna, get healthier and we're gonna do this together, you guys. This is so exciting. I'm so inspired by all of you as well. The ultimate goal, which we have to remember, is to align our body, mind, and spirit so that we are living the healthiest life possible, enjoying the healthiest life possible, enjoying life, period. Because, life is a gift, and we have to enjoy it as much as we possibly can. And so part of me talking about my journey on here was telling stories from the past, talking about how I used to be, how I am now, and things like that, because I think it's important to remember where I came from. Especially in a way that I think probably many of you can relate to. And part of my journey of how I got here today is my experience of talking about eating disorders. And I have watched, you guys, hundreds of videos on YouTube about eating disorders. And every time I watch them, I'm like, oh my God, yes, I relate. I so relate to what they're talking about, right? And typically people that have worked through eating disorders, like I have on some level, or have received counseling, like I have for eating disorders, and are trying to live a healthier life today. I would be remiss if I did not discuss eating disorders in the way that they need to be discussed, okay? And what I mean by that is that I think in our society, we flippantly throw words around like anorexia and bulimia, meaning that, if somebody vomits once or twice, they're bulimic. Or if somebody is watching what they're eating, we'll say, oh, she's really thin, is she anorexic? Without it knowing that, you guys, these are mental health disorders that have absolute diagnoses and signs and symptoms to them, okay? They are very, very serious. They aren't things to be joking about when a girl is really thin to say, oh, well, is she anorexic? Is she bulimic? And just throw those words around. They're very, very serious. We wouldn't do that with schizophrenia. We wouldn't do that with other issues. So I'm not really sure why with eating disorders, we don't take them seriously sometimes or as serious. But I can tell you from 20 years of working with teenage girls and boys who are typically the biggest group of people that suffer from eating disorders and then grow into adults, and they seem to hide it more, and they seem to, be able to apply it to their life so people don't really know that they have these eating disorders, which is what happened to me. People after a while stopped watching what I was eating. They in high school, people would notice, right? But as I grew older and my friends changed and family changed and things like that, it's nobody really caught on anymore, even though I was very much engaged in my eating disorders. And I think the other, thing that's interesting in society is that we don't typically think of men having eating disorders. And I really have, all honesty, with all of the clients that I've worked with through the years, about 50% of them are men and 50% of them are women, or guys and girls. So it's a very, very serious thing to be discussed, especially when we talk about weight loss and things like that. And, I've talked about how I'm fasting on this channel. I have, in the last probably 5 to 10 years, engaged in a lot of health cleansing, fasting, or spiritual cleansing, of which I do that for 24 to 48 hours. But I do not live it as a way of life. For me, I can get very addicted to fasting, and I have to be very, very careful that I'm not fasting for 4 days in a row or things like that, because I still have the issues in my head of calorie counting and, oh, I've lost 3 pounds and this and that and whatever. So I have to be very, very careful that, I say to myself, okay, I'm going to fast just this day, and the next day pick up and start eating healthy again, because for me, fasting can be part of that anorexia where I become obsessed, okay? So I wanted to read actually from the Mayo Clinic the medical diagnoses for these issues so that we're not kind of just throwing these out there and people understand actually what they mean. And for me, the first one I want to talk about is body dysmorphic disorder, okay? Because this is the one that I suffer from the most. And I'm just going to read it straight from the website. You can go to the Mayo Clinic. They have it listed there. I literally just put in body dysmorphia definition, and one of the first ones that came up was the Mayo Clinic. I trust the Mayo Clinic, so that's somebody I wanted to go to. Body dysmorphic disorder is a mental disorder in which you can't stop thinking about one or more perceived defects or flaws in your appearance. A flaw that, to others, is either minor or non-observable, but you may feel so ashamed and anxious that you may avoid many social situations. Okay, and one of the reasons why this is important that I discuss is, in the last 10 years, since my weight has literally yo-yoed up and down, I've gotten to a point where I will not go to family gatherings, I won't go to movies, I won't go to parties, I won't go to, if I can't fit into an outfit that I feel comfortable in, at the last minute I will say I'm not coming. I'm very, very weird about it, okay? And like, in fact, before I go to something, I always ask my friends, and I also suffer from social anxiety, which a lot of people probably find it hard to believe in watching my channel. They're like, oh my God, you're so like, sociable on the channel. But I do. I suffer from severe social anxiety where I literally have to know who's going to be where I'm going to go and like in my head prepare for it before I go into it because it terrifies me. And at this point, I kind of can put on a mask and be like, hey, how are you? It's so good to see you. But like inside, I'm like terrified, right? And so that also comes from my having body dysmorphia, which is when I look in the mirror, and for me, it's interesting because when I look in the mirror, I see myself much thinner than I actually am. Like I can tell you right now, watching my camera, like I feel like my face looks really thin. I look really good, right? Now, when I watch this video back, I will just chew myself apart. I'll be like, oh my God, you're like literally 30 pounds heavier than you look. And you're hiding your gut and people don't really know. I mean, I shame myself. I fat shame myself more than anybody in the world could. And it's because I have this built inside of my head. What's interesting is that I've had it from a very, very young age. My parents were people that believed in healthy eating, but they by no means ever said anything to me like, you need to be on a diet, you need to lose weight, nothing like that. Always supportive of me. And honestly, until I was about 15 to 17, I was a total string bean. I didn't have to watch what I ate or anything. And then all of a sudden, I started like just gaining weight left and right. And for me, in my head, it's just this constant ticker of fat, thin, fat, thin, fat, thin, fat, thin, and I can't fit into anything, and I'm not going to wear that shirt, and that shirt looks too tight, and this shirt looks too baggy, and this shirt, it's constant, you guys. And so for me, that's the body dysmorphia. I have dealt with it in counseling. I worked through it in counseling for many, many years. I have skills and tools that I use today of keeping me grounded. And one of the things that's important to know about all three of these mental disorders is that they are rooted in subconscious issues that are going on. And for me, it's a need to control, okay, which is also part of my addiction and my alcoholism, is that there's this overwhelming need to control things in my life. And so if I can control some aspect, like going to a situation where I feel like I'm going to be too fat by not going, or if I can say, I'm not going to wear this outfit, or I'm going to wear this outfit to hide that, or whatever. It's constant. It's like, it's crazy, you guys. And so a lot of times for me, what I have to do is breathe deep. This is something I taught myself. And in my head, I have a little mantra that I tell myself that everything's going to be okay. I'm going to make it fine. And I sometimes force myself through the situation of going to things and just allowing myself to be vulnerable. And a lot of times when I do that and I come out of it, I'm like, you know what? That wasn't that bad. Like sometimes I have to taking that risk. The other thing that's worked for me is telling friends of mine and telling my husband, like, I'm very anxious about going to this thing. I feel very heavy, I don't look good. And they never typically tell me, you look fine, you look great, don't worry about it. They say things to me that are more supportive of that because I think those are lies to tell people that have eating disorders, okay? To say to somebody, I'm here for you, I'm supportive of you. If we get there and you wanna leave, we can leave, okay? Or if you get there and you're uncomfortable and you need to leave, I understand that. I no hard feelings, I totally understand. And that's the kind of support I get from people in my life today. And that's awesome. I want to talk about anorexia because I think it's important that we understand what anorexia is as well. And the Mayo Clinic defines anorexia nervosa as, often simply called anorexia, is an eating disorder characterized by an abnormally low body weight, intense fear of gaining weight, and a distorted perception of body weight. People with anorexia place a high value on controlling their weight and shape, using extreme efforts that tend to significantly interfere with activities in their lives. So for many, many years, I was anorexic. I know it's hard to believe today, but I'm 5'10" and a half. I currently, like as you guys know from my video yesterday, I started this channel, I was 239, I was almost 240 pounds. Probably when I was 23 to 26, I weighed between 130 and 140, okay? So I was 100 pounds thinner than I am right now, all right? I'm just gonna stand up really quick so you guys can get, I'm heavier right now, but I want you to get the whole picture of how heavy I am, right? So here's my body at 240 pounds. I was 100 pounds thinner. When I see pictures of that now, I look emaciated. I look like a skeleton with skin. And I can remember people saying to me, like, you've lost a lot of weight and you looked good for a while. You look out of control at this point. And what was wrong was that I had this constant fear that if I gained 2 pounds, it was gonna end up being 20 and then 40, and then I was gonna be heavy again. And if I gained 5 pounds and this, and I mean, I watched every pound that if I gained a pound, I was done, right? I mean, I wouldn't eat for the next 2 days, which is why fasting for me has to be very limited. I counted every calorie. I ate between, like, I think it was like 300 and 600 calories a day. It was extremely unhealthy. I was tired all the time. And interestingly enough, I remember that at the time that this was going on, I was watching 90210, the original one with a friend of mine, my friend Jenny. And she would come over every week and we would watch it. And there was a character on there, I think the girl's name was Jenny on the show, actually. And Jenny went through this period where she had anorexia on the show, and she would get on a treadmill every day, and she would like work out for like 2 hours on the treadmill, and then she would like only eat like 600 calories. So she was like burning 1,200, eating 600. And all she was drinking was water. And I was doing the exact same thing, okay? I looked so unhealthy. My dad was very concerned about me. My mom was very concerned about me. Everybody was concerned with me. But for me, it was a total control issue as well, right? And there were a lot of sub-issues that came from before my addiction and my alcoholism that I still hadn't worked on yet, that were all coming to the surface. And so if I couldn't use drugs and alcohol, well, I'm gonna control something in my life, right? And so 2 years out of sobriety, or into sobriety, I'm now controlling my weight. So it was like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, right? And it was so unhealthy. Until I started working on people in a 12-step program with that, and I started talking to my counselor about that and saying, like, I'm really scared. Because my counselor said to me one day, he said, Peter, you need to go stand in the mirror and look at yourself. I remember that was like that very day I went that night, or I was watching a TV show with my friend that night, and she said, you're just like her in the show. And I don't know why it was something pop culture wise, like with a TV show, but like I could see it in somebody else's life, and I could see the similarities. I was like, oh my God, like this has to stop. And I remember I lost it to my friend. I just started bawling my eyes out. Something changed me that day, and I just was like, I'm gonna eat what I wanna eat. And it was really hard. Like, I felt like I was fighting on a daily basis, okay, to allow myself to eat. And it went from like 300 to 600 calories then to like 900. And then it just was, I was eating healthy. And for a long time, I ran, I was vegetarian. I was eating 2,000 calories a day. I was very, very healthy. I looked good. I was between 180 and 190, which is a great weight for me. I was muscular. And I felt like in control, but not needing to be too much in control, if that makes sense. And it was the healthiest I've ever been in my entire life. But I still fight that sometimes, and I will say this one thing, because I know a lot of these videos get banned on here because of anorexia and bulimia and all that kind of stuff, but like, I got very taken at the time with those websites, those anorexic websites that teach you tricks to be anorexic. Those websites are of the devil, okay? They are disgusting. They need to be taken down. They are horrible. The tricks that they teach people on there are tricks to die, okay? And I think that one of the things that my counselor said to me was, you are so willing to kill yourself over having the perfect body and need to control instead of working on what the deeper issues are. If you worked on what the deeper issues are, you might not have this need to control every aspect of your life. Absolutely correct. I had secrets I wasn't willing to talk about. I've talked those secrets out. They're out in the world, baby. They're done. I mean, and I don't hide from them anymore, and it's like so wonderful. I feel so much better about myself today. And I don't have that need to like have this perfect life. There is no such thing as a perfect body. There is no such thing as a perfect life, and I was never going to get there. And I was killing myself slowly. So those websites terrify me. I don't like them. I don't endorse them. I think they're horrible, okay? And they're just, the things that they suggest on there are, unreal, okay? And I'm not even gonna get into that because I don't wanna give it any power. The last issue I wanna talk about is bulimia. And let me pull it up. So bulimia is diagnosed by Mayo Clinic as bulimia nervosa, commonly called bulimia, is a serious, potentially life-threatening eating disorder. People with bulimia may secretly binge, eating large amounts of food and then purge, trying to get rid of the extra calories in an unhealthy way. For example, someone with bulimia may force vomiting or engage in excessive exercise. Sometimes people purge after eating only a small snack or a normal-sized meal. When I was in high school, I would eat packages of those white donuts. I'm talking about the white powder donuts? Like, literally, I would sit and eat like 8 packages of them, go in the bathroom and throw them up at lunch at school. okay, just so I could be in a size 32 jean and look great. Nobody had any clue. Nobody knew I was doing it, and it made me feel good. It made me feel like I can eat what I want to eat and I'm in control of my life. It was disgusting. And I almost took pride kind of in being bulimic. It was really, really weird. And I honestly did not know for a long time that excessive fasting or excessive exercise after binge eating is also considered bulimic. And I did that, like I've just told you about with that. I would like get on the Stairmaster for like literally 2 hours and watch a movie in the gym, and until I had burned like 2,000 calories and I knew I'd only eaten like 800 and vomited up half of it. I mean, it was really sick, you guys. And that is no way to live your life, to feel just, you know, somebody said this to me not too long ago, and I've heard it many times in my life, but you know, we should eat to live, not live to eat. When your life is that consumed by food, there is something very, very seriously wrong. And like, I was unwilling to look at what was going on in my life. I mean, I was consumed with food and my body, and it was too much, which is why in doing this channel, I want this channel to be very, very positive. I want it to be about, you know, body, mind, and spirit, because I think all three need to get healthy for us to be healthy. I think if you have eating disorders, you have to reach out to somebody. I will link below, you know, a national hotline for eating disorders. I will find one. If anybody has any questions about that, you know, please call a hotline, call somebody, find a counselor. You can look good, be healthy, and be mentally healthy at the same time, and it's so much more attractive. I mean, it's so much more attractive to be of healthy mind and spirit, to be a compassionate person to others, but most importantly to yourself, and to love yourself enough to take care of your body. I think it's super, super important, and I think it's important that we understand about these eating disorders, which for me have been blockages to having a healthy life. So I hope you guys, you know, related to something in that video. If you didn't, you know, remember the information, hold on to it for other people. And like I said, I will link a number below, and come back tomorrow. It's another video on my so-called healthy life. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.